What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me, as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this your first podcast for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Make sure you leave that 5-star review. You'll do that. We'll keep producing that content. On today's episode, we're going to be looking around the league. We kind of got back to normality in terms of the schedule. We had a pretty full load last night. Some interesting games. We're going to be breaking them down on this pod. We're also going to be taking a look at the Bucks. Their run continues as they win the NBA Cup behind the domination of Giannis Antetokounmpo. We'll also be talking some trade stuff. Is Zach LaVine headed to the Denver Nuggets? But before we do it, Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. It's currently snowing here in Massachusetts. Hopefully, we get a white winter this year. We haven't had one in a minute. But yeah, man, looking forward to the holidays. NBA Cup was kind of a dud. I think that's where we're starting there. But kudos to the Bucks. Let's talk about them. I mean, Giannis nearly had a 20, 20, and 10 game. Almost had a Olajuwon level game. But let's be happy for the Bucks. Let's save the best for last. Let's start with the Thunder and the game overall. A game that was really highly touted. I think amidst all this noise that the ratings are down and the games are bad and the cup is this boring thing no one cares about. I was kind of hoping that this would be a game where it's like, all right, everyone shut up, enjoy this game. This is a great game. Two of the best teams in the league. Bucks have something to prove. OKC is hungry. It just felt like kind of a dud, didn't it?
Yeah, I was kind of waiting and then hoping to be hopping on here talking like this is Shea. Shea's ready to be MVP. The Thunder are going to do the sweep this year. They're ready to do it all. They're doing it all right. They're going to win the cup, but they're going to be the number one seed in the West. They're going to go all the way to the finals. I was ready and pumped for that. And then Thunder just didn't. I don't know if it didn't show up is the right word.
Yeah.
They played bad. They kind of stuck to their game plan too much. I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but like we were talking about it, the three ball was not falling for them, and they just didn't ever go away from it. And sometimes that works, but in this situation, they needed to try different things than just shooting as much as they could possibly shoot, and they just never went away from that, and that ultimately led to them effectively being blown out.
Yeah, I think a couple things. And just on the game as a whole, without getting into the Thunder yet, I think the game as a whole felt like a shootout. And that's just exactly been what people have been kind of not super happy with this season. Is a lot of games come down to shootouts. A lot of games, I mean, everyone's playing the math game. Everyone's just trying to up their volume and hope for the best. And I mean, OKC did a fantastic job doing that against the Rockets. They created a ton of open threes. I mean, and that's what they do. That a lot of their offense is predicated off of being one of the best driving teams in the league. And then they kind of flipped the script against the Rockets and kicked it out. And I don't think the Rockets are ready for that volume. And I mean, in this game, you got to give credit to the Bucks. I mean, how much size they impose on the Thunder. I mean, Brook Lopez when he's going and he's really like moving well. I mean, there are just some games where he just really turns back the clock and he just looks youthful. Let's not forget that a few years ago, this is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, bona fide. And the Thunder were just afraid to go inside, but both teams were just like trying to shoot threes. Both teams were just trying to chuck, 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 chuck. It was a chucking game. And that was just exactly that was not the kind of game we wanted for the cut. That was not the game I thought we were going to get from a team like the Thunder that I mean they have such a dynamic offense, such a um, a high octane defense, but they were not able to create turnovers, the kind of things that are exciting for us to see when we watch them. I mean, a lot of their defense is based off of the fact that they are just turning everybody over. I mean, forcing nearly like a 19% turnover rate this season, leading the league by a mile again in history for creating turnovers. Just weren't able to do that last night. And I think we got a taste of what they look like now to get into the Thunder, now what they look like when they can't create turnovers and they face a team with a lot more size. Because small ball is terrifying when you can't do anything with your wings. Your game is really predicated on how your guards can get downhill and play one on one. You can't do that against the Thunder, but Giannis, I guess, not I guess, we know is a real matchup nightmare for really anyone who's trying to play small enough. And poor Alex Caruso, man. I mean, that's a tough assignment. I mean, he's a guy that we've seen him do it when he was on the Bulls in the playoffs. When you're really trying to expand like his range as just an elite defender, when you're asking him to go against Giannis, it's just that's not going to work. And let's start there. Where do we see from their defense where this is a team that is best defense in the league right now? How did they, you know, they did not really have an impact on this game like we've seen them do all season long against this Bucks squad.
I think it was there in the first half. Like, let's not forget this is a one bucket game. It was only 2 3 points in it at the half. And that was largely because of OKC's defense, because their offense was just as bad in the first half as it was in the second half. So like their defense kept them in it in the first half of the game in a similar sort of way to the semifinal against the Rockets, where it was a real defensive battle. And then the OKC just went off in the second half and dropped 70 points. That that didn't happen in this game, and ultimately they weren't forcing the turnover, so you didn't really see the impact. They were trying to go small to have more shooters on the court, and that just made it even easier for Giannis to just dominate. And I guess you need, like, when they ultimately then they had to start chasing. So when they went to the small and it didn't work, it kind of left too big of a hole for them to recover from there.
Yeah. And I think the tale of two halves for sure. Like a pretty mediocre first half and a pretty terrible second half. I mean, Thunder shoot 26% from the field in the second half and 2 field goals made from their bench.
Yeah.
A team that you really value how deep they can get, but they just had nothing to show for it. Cason Wallace, for instance, had 1 field goal attempt. He made his in the second half. I mean, he's a guy that you hope that you get something out of. If he's not, maybe Isaiah Joe's going to go on 1 field goal made in the second half. Lou Dort only took 1 shot in the second half, missed that 1 shot. And it felt like, it was all up to Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to do anything. And Shai didn't get downhill enough. And I think a lot of that, I'm going to blame that a little bit on the lineups tonight. I'm going to say that, Alex Caruso in this team is a little situational. And he's kind of like he is the, not even the cake topper. Like he's really extra. He's the extra dessert. Like you don't need that extra defender when you have this kind of defense, especially when your offense is this bad. Like you don't need that icing on top. Just like get him out of the lineup. If you're gonna put him on Giannis and let Giannis be free safety because Caruso is not shooting, how are you gonna expect Shai to operate inside? How are you gonna expect him to get there when Brook Lopez is not only there, but then you get Giannis? And I think they really suffered too without Chet to space the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't play small with Kenrich Williams out there as a 5 because then you saw exactly what happened there, even less rim protection. So I think, this is kind of a lesson for us to understand, this isn't a impervious team. The Thunder are susceptible to size still. And I think it goes to show also how important Chet can be and how his growth as an inside scorer can really like take this team to the next level. Because this is a bona fide championship level team with a serious weakness in size inside, but then they have an answer. And I think Chet can answer that. And hopefully he comes back healthy. Hopefully he comes back with, enough confidence in his body to do that. Cause that's going to take a lot for him to do that. And, maybe him combined with, Hardenstein can really get that done, but it showed tonight, man, or the other night. And Giannis fed. He ate, man. I mean, dude, that guy, when he is putting his will into the game and there's no size to go up against him, like that's still one of the best players to watch in this game.
Giannis is just unstoppable. Let's switch it over there. Yeah, we saw the human side of OKC. Like, remember when we were talking last year, we were thinking they ended up with the number one seed. Obviously, it was a tie at the top, but we were like, okay, if the Lakers can find a way to be able to play the Thunder in the first round, you actually like the Lakers to maybe win it because they have that size, they have that weaknesses, and it's kind of still there. But of course, we still haven't seen the full complement of OKC because we haven't seen Hartenstein and Chet on the floor together at all. So we still have to see the full complement, but yeah, we definitely saw the human side of OKC in this game, something to look at moving forward. But on the Bucks, just Giannis just he's put this team on his back, and he just goes, okay, I'm literally going to do everything humanly possible to make us good, and you guys just follow along for the ride. That's literally what this whole run that the Bucks have been on has been. Giannis has been absolutely incredible, and when you watch him play at this level, you just look at it and just say the reason that we're so critical of the Bucks and we're so quick to worry about the Bucks is largely because the last 2 years they've been bounced in the first round of the playoffs. And why has that happened? Because Giannis Antetokounmpo has been injured for both of those series. If Giannis has been healthy the last 2 years, they probably have at least one conference finals appearance, if not more, out of the 2 years. Most likely, they're at least going to the second round of the years, and we're not anywhere near as worried about the Bucks moving forward. That's just this whole thing. Giannis he's on the floor. The Bucks have a chance because there's a high probability he's going to be the best player on the floor in any given series that they might play, and that gives them a great chance of winning. So they're on this great run right now. They're on a 12-3 run, and they've just won the NBA Cup. So they're effectively on a 13-3 run, and they're very much in the conversation for a top 3 seed. I still think it's going to be Cavs and Celtics are going to be the top 2 seed. Then it's going to be either probably one of the Knicks or the Bucks to get the 3 seed, and it just all falls on Giannis. But one thing I will say is you can't underestimate the importance of a guy like a Bobby Portis to this Bucks team. Having a legit 6-man that you can just rely on to always produce, I think that's such an important thing for winning teams in the NBA.
Yeah, he on top of everybody else. I'll get him shine, but also how much did we talk about how many NBA players this team has? Like real 8-10-man playoff rotation players. And starting from the top, actually, just Damian Lillard, like his shooting has improved over this stretch. He's now up to 37% in his last 18 games. Brook Lopez has rediscovered his 3-point shot, shooting 41%. Bobby Portis, 39%. Talk about you later, Pat Connaughton. Taurean Prince, all he does now is just shooting. He's shooting nearly 50%. AJ Green, I've heard about him a lot because all he does is take good shots. He's the best, most efficient shot in the league. We said it last time. Still shooting nearly 45% from 3. And then, Gary Trent Jr., he's found his shot again. There's a lot of this flips on, the guys around Giannis actually hitting their shot. And Giannis showing us that he is such a good playmaker, such an underrated playmaker, especially when you're playing small teams that have to double him like the Thunder did. And it was just easy going for them to get it to your Bobby Portis and for Bobby to be able to comfortably come in and just play his role. And there's not going to be this big spotlight on, all right, he didn't produce enough, because everyone is. It's not just on Bobby. I think everyone is really putting in the effort to produce in the perimeter. And this is, without Chris Middleton getting going. I don't know if that'll happen this season.
Yeah.
We don't know. But, the playmaking was there in the flashes that we've gotten from over the last few games. But I think overall, as we've been checking in with the Bucks over the course of this early season, it's been such a roller coaster. And I think a lot of that has to do with, our expectations of a team led by Doc Rivers, failed expectations that we've seen from this Bucks team in the past, our lack of faith. Like that's really been shaken, what we believe in Dame and Giannis and if they can do this together. But I think they've done a lot to kind of prove us, you're not wrong, but to prove that the concept of this team and that they do have some guys who can kind of space the floor for Giannis. Dame can get into that zone if, it's a little bit more teetered towards Giannis producing and then Dame working off of those advantages. And I think that they're showing us that this is a team you want to be afraid of. This is not just an easy out in the second round. They're going to challenge if they keep on producing like this.
Yeah, and then we just get now we just have to wait and see if is the curse of the NBA Cup real. Remember the run the Lakers went on after they won the Cup last year. The Bucks made sure not to celebrate too hard on Tuesday night, so that maybe that was a part of it. Darvin Ham giving his knowledge, Mr. NBA Cup, Darvin Ham.
I'm sure he's
Uh,
giving a lot of knowledge.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we gotta wait and see now how the Bucks go from here. Because obviously, like you look at Giannis, like he wanted to do that. He treated that like it was the NBA Finals because he knows just wanted to be like that good teammate. They wanted to get that payday for his guys. So like he put a lot into that. He reached that emotional high, and then like let's see if there might be a bit of a drop off for a few games. Just how long does that last over a period to see if they start to fall off a little bit now. But it's going to be interesting to watch the Bucks now moving forward as after winning this NBA Cup. But last thing on Giannis, still hasn't had under a game shooting under 50% from the field this year. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. And that's a 3-point pull-up shot. I mean, if he literally completely eliminated that, I mean, he'd be shooting like 70%.
Yeah, you got to try in these modern times. You just have to try those things, unfortunately. But let's get into some of the action we saw last night. We got back to normal. The schedule is getting back to normal now. We're seeing more regular games. It was a bit weird. I didn't know that they had it so spread out and everything with the NBA Cup. I didn't realize that was the plan for the schedule. Like, why was there no games on Wednesday? Like, I don't know
There's
what
a
the
lot
reason
of
for that
catching up.
was.
A lot of catching
Like,
up.
yeah, we see teams like in the East, like like look at the Bulls. They played 28 games. The Heat have only played 24. Like that seems like a weird kind of disparage. And I know the Knicks now have a big run because even before the NBA Cup, the Knicks had only played. I think they've only played like one back to back, maybe two. But I feel like the Knicks have definitely had a light schedule. I've noticed that in my fantasy team, especially. They always seem to be playing only like two games every week instead of like four. That's what's something I noticed. So it's interesting to see where the schedule goes from here. But we had some big games last night. We'll get to the Knicks and Timberwolves, but how about we start with the Grizzlies and the Warriors? A little
Yeah.
check in on those
Let's
two
talk about
teams
Warriors.
after a crazy game where they Grizzlies put up 144 points and absolutely blew out the Warriors by 51 points. Like that
Yeah.
was a beatdown.
And let's put this in perspective. They just lost to the Mavs, right? The Mavs put up 146 points. They've now given up 287 combined points in the last two games. This was a team that was top five in defense. They were at the top spot for a quick minute. They've dropped down to seventh now in defensive rating. And this is the craziness of the West, but now they're 10th, 14 and 12. After a 12-3 start, they went
Yeah.
2-9 in their last 11 games. Uh, Obviously, a lot of talk recently about their lack of an extra playmaker. What do? They're going to get Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder's averaging 18.4 points, 6.6 assists, 45.2, 38.7 shooting splits. Like we're looking forward to this guy to really have an impact. For reference, Nets had a 113 offensive rating with him and 108 without him. That's pretty good bump. Hopefully we get that bump for the Warriors. In his inaugural game, this had to be the worst Warriors performance since 2017, 2016, when the last time that Curry did not reach double-digit scoring.
Not only that, dude didn't have a field goal. Didn't make a field goal. That I haven't actually seen this for sure, but that has to be the first time in his career he never made a field goal.
That hasn't happened, I believe, since his rookie year.
Wow.
I want to say if I'm correct there. But we're going to talk about the Grizzlies in a second because I think they're such a fascinating team, and I think just sticking with the Warriors defense and thinking about what's going on there, both teams, the Mavs and the Grizzlies, pose two very different challenges to them. The Mavs, the heaviest pick and roll screening action team in the league, they're going to pick and roll you to death, and they're going to swing to the weak side, and Doncic is going to do his thing on the perimeter in isolation, and that's going to be kind of a two-dimensional team, mostly one-dimensional. That if you don't have the size in the drop, if you don't have switchy defenders, if you're not able to rotate, it's kind of a matchup that I thought that the Warriors would do well with. But I mean, the Mavs just scored completely at will, completely at will. And then totally different matchup with the Grizzlies. I mean, the Grizzlies are a team that run the least amount of screens in the league. They run this very fascinating, like shifty offense where there's just a lot of shifting and movement depending on who's driving, who's cutting. There's so many driving lanes open, so much cutting going on. almost, I mean, it almost like a cousin to what the Warriors do, but not a lot of screening, not a lot of need for a drop. A kind of offense that you think that the Warriors might do well with their amount of, quick-footed defenders, but they just get just annihilated. So that kind of leaves me with the thought of, I hate pinning this on effort. I hate pinning this on vibes. I hate pinning this on stuff that we can't necessarily see on the court. But it just felt like there was no competitive spirit, really. There's not a single moment where, they felt like they were competitive in this game at all. And maybe that all just like comes down to what you get from Curry and Draymond. We're gonna talk about Curry not getting a field goal. You want to tell the people what Draymond's box score was? That's a lot of zeros,
Zero,
man.
zero, zero, four turnovers, minus 41, I believe, in 19 minutes.
How do you go back to the locker? Like, do you say anything in the locker room? Do you just say sorry? Like, do you like for the two guys who are the leaders of this team, like and Draymond getting in a fight in a technical? Of course, he's gonna do that in a game where he has triple zeros. But I mean, just two completely different teams. Grizzlies on the up, Warriors look lost, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're just they had that start, and it just shows that like having an elite defense is definitely a starting point, but we're starting to see cracks in that elite defense, and also seeing it can only last you so long. Eventually, they need their offense to kind of to kind of not catch up, but like get a little bit closer to the level that their defense is playing at, or else the defense is gonna kind of become a little bit irrelevant. And we definitely saw that against the Grizzlies. We saw it previously against the Mavs. Like the offensively against the Mavs, like the Warriors were amazing. Like they shot the lights out. They set a team record for threes made, and yet somehow they still managed to lose that game. Like that was just bizarre that they were able to lose that game. That's just so like un-Warriors that performance. But it's just weird. It's just you don't know where this team needs to go. And the saddest thing is that Podzimski probably had his best game of the season last night.
No,
20,
he
21, 4
did.
and 6, two steals. He went 9 of 13. I mean, they got to be hoping and praying that that's gonna be a turning point for him. For because his lack of growth this year has definitely been a concern for the Warriors. But we're just seeing what we thought about the Warriors. They're just an aging team. They need more. Steph Curry is showing his age a little bit. 22
Yeah.
and 6, not really getting to the line. Just not the usual Steph Curry we expect, not the level that we expect from him. And then you're like, they need to get some help. And I don't know where the help is going to come from. I just look at it and say they should have got Lowry.
Yeah. I mean, sure, they could have. I think that if anything, management is being smart about the future, and they know that if Curry's not going to carry, which I think we've all come to that conclusion. Are we at this point in the year now where I mean, Curry is still great. So one of the best shooters in the league, one of the best offensive players in the league. You can still run an offense around him, but he's not that flash of MVP that we got a couple years ago. That's not coming back. Like they won that championship, and it's kind of been that's been kind of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that felt like the last hurrah for them. I think they're still, like I said, like they don't need to go and blow it up completely. They got to be smart. Like I think they still have their like I think they should be willing to maybe move the first round picks they have for next year and the following year. I think they could be comfortable doing that without thinking that's going to destroy their future. Not saying they need to or they should overpay for guys, but you'd like to see them be willing to do that to kind of give Steph one last potential run, this team one last potential run. I wouldn't be against that, but they got to be smart about it. Like we look at the Lakers now, like it would be crazy for them to trade the last two picks that they have with the squad that they currently have. That would just destroy this team's future in all sorts of ways. And the Warriors are not in a dissimilar situation. They just have more of their own draft picks. So it, I don't know if it's going to get better for the Warriors. I think they just got to accept where they are and just enjoy what time left they have with Steph. I think that's that. And that's like I'll probably call him this too
Uh,
soon, but it just kind of feels a bit like that.
it sucks. It is it's true though. I feel like both teams are kind of in hospice right now, and it's like just enjoy the last run. It's not a run to this is no longer, and I don't mind that either because I really firmly believe, and it's easy for me as a Bulls fan to believe that this game is not all about just reducing things down to a championship. It's about, the game that you watch. And but I think just in terms of being a better basketball team, they they hopefully will get more out of Schroeder.
Mhm.
And I don't know where they're at in terms of their head. Like I don't know what's going on in that locker room right now after the two losses they just had. Um, we've seen them turn it around before. But man, I mean, just kudos to the Grizzlies, though. I mean, the Grizzlies who have really been ascending. The Grizzlies who, as I mentioned, have just this really fascinating offense who is zigging while everyone's zagging, or is it zagging when everyone else is zigging? I'm not sure, but they're doing the opposite.
A little bit of everything.
Um, and I think what I first want to talk about is just how they're constantly able to find guys. And last year was like the only, just like the most catastrophic example of, you know, like eventually you're going to run out of guys because they did. Tough season, most injury riddled season in for anybody really in like the last 5 years. They suffered the most, and they had more minutes lost than some teams had, like their starting lineup played all year. And then this year, I mean, you start off and you don't have GG Jackson, you don't have Vince Jackson Jr., like two wings that we're really excited to see. So like, all right, great. And then Jaw's still injured. Bane's a little banged up. And in summer league, Edie like sprains his ankle. The guy you're scared if he's even gonna play. Brandon Clark coming back from injury. And then what do we have now? I mean, they survived through all that in the beginning of the season. And then, whoa, Jake LaRavia is an NBA player. Awesome. Scottie Pippen Jr. is like one of the best backup point guards in the league. Like, no cap. Like that's a real thing. John Contrar's still there. Like, and Santi Aldama, a guy who has been really like decent in their rotation, I think is stepping his game up beyond that. He's not just, a nice, fill in, but he is a very, very good rotation piece for them now. Like the size that he offers, and then when you talk about another, again, you can just go up and down the roster, man. Like Jay Huff, a guy who came out of nowhere. No one's thinking about him at all. The size that he offers, what he does for them, stretching the floor, and being a lob threat as well. Like this team is just so set up and down the roster. Oh, can I add one more name in there? Jalen Wells. Or is anyone thinking about Jalen Wells? I mean, that guy's playing like an NBA starter. I mean, really stretching the floor, attacking the paint. Like he does everything for this team as well. Like it's just insane to me. Like I don't know what their scouting team is on. I don't even know how big their scouting team is. Someone needs to do some research on what research they're doing because however way they find these guys, they constantly have these guys that are just fitting in perfectly with their system and really continuing to grow with them. I think it's testament not just to their culture, but their scouting department. Like they just never miss. Last year is the only time they missed, and they
They didn't
didn't really
miss. They
miss. They
didn't
didn't.
miss.
Yeah. By
They
the end
still
of the
had
season, we're like,
like GG
oh,
Jackson emerged last year like that. Like that sort of way. So but you just have to give credit and like you just look at the Grizzlies organization and that's what you have. You have harmony. You have everyone who's making the decisions are singing from the same hymn sheet. They know the players that Taylor Jenkins wants. He has the system. They Jenkins and the team as a whole obviously just create a great atmosphere. Like people come in and just slot in seamlessly. Guys who failed at other teams, guys who looked like they weren't good enough for the NBA, playing legitimate minutes, just easy flowing into this organization. And credit goes to everyone involved in the decision making within Memphis, and I think just showing how good of a coach Taylor Jenkins is. Because like this roster, the craziest thing about it is they don't have a single player playing more than 30 minutes per game.
yeah. How many points do you think John Morant would have to score for them to score over 140? You'd
Yeah.
think that maybe he'd have to score double digits, right? No.
Nope, he scored nine, and they do it, which is just crazy. And what's even more crazy is they arguably have more players underperforming than overperforming, and yet they are a top five offense and a
Yep.
top five defense. What does that add up to? A contender.
Yeah. Dude, we said it in the beginning, and I think that it was, for me, I thought it was a duh take. I thought that, a team this deep with John Morant coming back, with proof of concepts in the past. Like, why would we not think of them as a contender? So I don't think that that was even a hot take come true for us in the beginning of the season. I'm just gonna assume that you were with me on that. I'm not so sure about it, but what do they do well, and what do we love that they do well? I mean, they are just a demon team in the fast break.
Yeah.
They're still so good at getting in the paint. Those two things, they're the second best team in the league in fast break points per game. They are the best team in points in the paint this year, better than the Cavs. And they are sharing the ball so well. They are the second best team in the league in assists per game.
Mm-hmm.
And not currently the number one ranked offense, but just with the speed that they're playing, they are scoring the most points in the league per game.
Yeah.
That's not something I expected from the Grizzlies this year, to be honest. Especially with the questions of, backup point guard answered, perimeter shooting. Yeah, there's Bane. Oh, Luke Kennard's still an NBA player. Jake Lerovic can shoot. Santi Aldama, let's take some more shots per game. Like, just a lot of answers just throughout the roster. And like you said, the fact that they're able to do this on, limiting people's minutes, not really burning up their gas throughout the season, that's going to do wonders for them by the end when they're really competing for the real thing. And that's something that most teams at the top can't really say. Most teams at the top are really burning through their stars, and you really hope that you just cross your fingers they don't get hurt. That's a big thing with the Grizzlies. You don't want anyone to get injured throughout this run. That's just been their main enemy the past few years. Getting there, it's just been injuries. But just overall, it's impressive to see, and it's impressive to see that there's not too much pressure on Zach Edey. That's not been a conversation at all throughout the season. They've been able to play small at times and not rely too much on Zach Edey and put too much on his plate to begin his career.
Yeah, and guys have been hurt. Like Jazz missed time. Desmond Bane's missed time. Edie's missed time. Smart continues to miss time. Like they've been hurt as well, and yet they're still 19-9. I'm excited to see them match up with the Thunder. We haven't seen it yet this season. I'm excited to see when that matchup comes around. We know as we get closer to the playoffs and we get into the playoffs, yeah, the Grizzlies are going to have to shorten the roster a little bit. They're going to have to play. Guys are going to have to play a few more minutes. They are going to need Ja to be at a better level to really go and be a contender. They're going to need Bane to be at a better level to really go and be a contender. But they are doing it so right at this moment. And you know what? They're doing it in a way that I guess NBA fans want to see. They're super efficient from the field. They're not relying on the three ball too much. They're getting to the free throw line a lot. They're an elite rebound team, assist team. They played in the fast break. They're kind of doing it right for some of the people that are hating on the 3-point shot. So they're a team that I guess fans, casual fans, and haters of the 3-point shot are going to be able to get behind as well. And I'm excited to see this Grizzlies team moving forward because we believed in them coming back. Like these Grizzlies, these are your boys. You always loved the Memphis Grizzlies. We kind of had to forget about them last year, and then we were touting them up. They're gonna have a bounce back, and we're seeing it right now.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing we should start doing this podcast is highlighting different styles of play because I don't believe it's as pervasive as people say. I think there's so much interesting wrinkles to offense at the league, even though the 3-point rate has gone up, even though there's more pick and roll than ever. I mean, teams like the Grizzlies, you turn on the Grizzlies, you watch them, and you just see that there's a different spirit to their game. There's different strategy that they use, and it's fun to see that. It's fun to see a team not just go to our best player, pick and roll, attack a switch, get to the lob threat. Like there's a lot more to this team on that. And shout out to Jaren Jackson Jr., who's having a fantastic year and just continues to grow as an on-ball player. Nothing's always linear. It's thought maybe it was going to happen last year before, but I think he's continuing to make incremental improvements to his game.
I think a point was made. I'm not sure. I was listening to it on another podcast, and someone made the point is just saying that maybe like what happened last year maybe was the best thing for the Grizzlies and for Jaren Jackson Jr. when they had to rely so heavily on his offense that allowed him to be in a position to grow into the player that they always hoped and believed that he would be. And we're kind of seeing the proof of that this year. I'm pretty sure he's still their leading scorer this year, which is obviously impressive with with Bane back and with Morant back. So I think that's definitely something that you see the silver linings can be there, even when it seems all doom and gloom. There always is silver linings, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a perfect way to look at it. He had a massive jump in volume, went from 13 shots to 17.6 shots from 2 seasons ago to last season when they didn't have Ja. Then kind of back down to earth a little bit, 15 shots. But now he's as efficient as he's ever been from the field, shooting 52% from the field. It's his best mark as a Grizzly. And his 3-point shot has improved. He's now shooting 36% from three. Last year, shooting 32. That's also his best mark since his sophomore year when he was only shooting 2.5 shots, taking 5 shots per game this time. And you just see it in his game too, like the fact that they're not just going inside out on him, they're really relying on him like to take guys off the dribble, giving him enough space to do so with his current offense. And we see it time and time again, like he's got such surprising handles and ability to just get downhill when you give him the space, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah. So let's flip it over from one team on the rise to one team on the decline. Let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah. Okay.
And this
you guys had fun with them last night.
This feels like a good time. This feels like a good time to break this out. Let's see. I gotta take my headphones off.
Oh, we got the all right.
There we go.
I like
waiting.
That's
I've been
nice.
Waiting to break this out.
That's nice.
This feels like the time. Last night, Cat back in Minnesota put on a show. The Knicks put a beat down on the Timberwolves, 133 to 107. They were up by as many as 36. Karl Anthony Towns sets the record for how would you describe that? The best ever performance in the first game back against your former team. 32 points, 20 boards, 6 assists, 5 of 5 from the 3-point line, 10 of 12 from the field for 83%. He was absolutely incredible. I just want to mention on the Knicks real quick. This is what we need to see more of. This is what the Knicks were built for. Cat absolutely dominates. Bridges has a great game. 29, 6 and 6, 4 of 8, 12 of 18. McBride off the bench, 4 triples, 8 dimes. And guess what? Jalen Brunson had a terrible game. But the other guys stepped up. And that's what this is. That's what we need to see more of. Not that we want to see Jalen Brunson having bad games, but when those off games come, the other guys have to step up. We saw that last night. Timberwolves weren't even that bad last night. The Knicks were just way better.
Yeah, and I think I still am not liking their approach to offense for Minnesota. We'll get on that in a minute. But I mean, the Knicks, I would even say Jalen Brunson did not have a great scoring night, for sure. Went 5 of 14, 2 of 5 from 3. Just struggled a little bit to score inside. And he's had some games like that this year where he didn't have that same magic that he had last year where it felt like everything around the rim was going. I mean, he was top 5 in efficiency around the rim last year, which for his size is just unimaginable. But he was initiating offense and everything really flowed through him. And I think he was a big part of why Cat was getting go. He kept feeding Cat, and I think the whole team kind of gathered around that. And I think you'd love to see the offense go through Cat because sometimes you're not really sure when he's going to take over the game or if he's going to take over the game, but you know that he can. You know that he can, and you know that there's very few bigs in the league who are going to be able to stop him. There's very few defense in the league that, if you're going to stretch the floor with him and you're going to have cutters around him that he can pass to, the way that they're really starting to gel around Cat and allowing him to be a facilitator at the elbow, allowing him to attack smaller players when teams want to kind of run him off the line, they're starting to get into a flow here. And I mean, this is just such it was a really casual, it felt like 32 points. The way he just ran the floor, getting easy buckets, wasn't really forcing a lot from three. I mean, he made all 5 of his threes. I mean, this was kind of a signature Karl Anthony Towns game for him to come back to Minnesota, hit all of his threes, go 10 of 12 from the floor. A lot of those were, tough buckets. Tough buckets get really attacking inside. And I think that's, game plan number 1. You play Rudy Gobert, you got to take the game to him. You got to take the fight to him. And he did that tonight.
Yeah, after the first quarter, let's not forget, he only had 3 points. He was 1 or 2 from the field. So after that, he went 9 of 10 to finish out the game, which is just pretty incredible. But Yeah, we love the Knicks. It's good to see them having a nice little bounce back after they obviously disappointingly lose in the quarterfinals of the cup, but beat the Magic. Obviously, not too much of an achievement. They don't have their two best players. Then a great road win against the Timberwolves. But let's talk about the Timberwolves. It's really not great. And like watching them, I'm just like I think I underestimated the impact that Cat has offensively because Julius Randle is just like not filling the role. Not he's not even getting close to filling the role that Cat played in this team last year. And like their defense has got back up to the level that it was at last year, but their offense is significantly worse than it was last year, and that's the real thing that we're seeing with this Minnesota team and why they are struggling so much.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is because Rudy Gobert. I mean, ever since his Utah days, has never really been a significant pick and roll threat.
Mhm.
It's just not. Like defenses are not really respecting that. Like they know that if they put some pressure on him, like he's not going to really be able to catch and finish, and they can kind of harass him with the small. And they're not really too worried about that. And they're much more worried about giving Anthony Edwards a lane. So like Anthony Edwards does not have easy lanes when it comes to the pick and roll. And when he's on the floor, unless he's in the action, like there's a second defender, 1 foot in lane. When Julius Randle is there, I mean, there's three coming at you. There's one in the box. Like Anthony Edwards does not have an opportunity really to get into his driving game. And if the opposing team is just like, all right, like Anthony, beat us with your three, like great. That's someone's dream. That is an opposing coach's dream. Is if Anthony Edwards wants to become Steph Curry tonight and beat us, that okay. That sounds like a great way for us to try and shut everyone else down and shut down what they want to get out of this game by what I think Anthony Edwards could be great at, which is facilitating with his athleticism, is facilitating with his ability to get 2 feet in the paint. And that, I mean, that's just not happening tonight. And he just did not. I think most games, like I'm always impressed with the fact that he deals with it so well as a young player. He still is, with that amount of defensive pressure. But it felt like it just took him out of his flow. Like he only took 16 shots, but I mean, he didn't get very aggressive with his offense this game, and it felt like a lot of that's due to. I mean, this is what the Knicks can do. I think the Knicks can really put a lot of pressure with their wing defenders. That they're not going to stop a lot inside the paint, but if you can put a lot of pressure when you have those kind of wings, like it's going to be tough for a guy like Ant to get going. And I don't know where you go from here for Minnesota. I mean, Julius Randle, if you just look at box score stats, like he has some decent nights. He's the guy who can still get on the boards, he can still score, but it's just not really, it's not helping. There's no way up, I think. The experiment was kind of doomed to start, but we haven't seen any glimmer of a system that works. And when do we start to blame Chris Finch for that?
Yeah, I mean the offense has always been an issue, and it's an even more prevailing issue now this year. They made this move. Let's not mince words. They made this move because they wanted to clean up their books. This was not a basketball move. This was not a move to think, oh, we're going to get better playing like this. This was a move to clean up their books and maybe hope there's a chance that it might still just even out. But Dante DiVincenzo, he obviously just loved playing in New York and loved playing with his Villanova boys because damn, has he been bad this year.
Yeah.
8.5 points per game, 33% from three. Compare that to last year, 15.5 points per game on 40% shooting. So he has really, really struggled. Randall, just we saw the growth in his playmaking last year, especially once he had when he was having those games, but once we got OG, and we're just seeing that completely fall off in Minnesota. We're not seeing the growth in Ant's playmaking like that we wanted. McDaniel's still not doing what Minnesota wanted. They needed more from him offensively. He's still not there. Naz Reid's not really improving the way we thought he might build on the sixth man of the year last year, and maybe would fill the cat role a bit more, even like still coming off the bench. That's not really happening. There's just nothing is really clicking with this Minnesota team, and you're kind of looking at it now and thinking, all right, are they gonna trade Julius Randle at the deadline? Is
To
that
who?
the move? Yeah,
To who?
that's what I'm thinking. Like, but like I'm like would they be better off right now if they traded Julius Randle for like Cam Johnson and Bogdanovich or something like that?
They have no picks to trade. Who are you attaching to that?
No, I'm talking just straight up deal because actually, you know what,
Nets say no.
I keep forgetting Randall's not an expiring deal. I do keep forgetting that too. So that adds another
He's got
wrinkle
another
to
year,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I keep
It's
forgetting that
yeah,
element of it as well. It's just so tough with Minnesota right now, and they're gonna have to do something, or they're gonna have to like blow it up completely.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, if this is a long-term move, I think that they part of the reality was, and I don't think they're dumb. I think they knew it might be like this, but I think they think so highly of Anthony Edwards that even the idea of totally capping this team was, I think they big brained it a little bit
mhm.
because early regrets are looking at what Cat's doing in New York and looking at how far you've sunk offensively. And I think a couple things happened. One, I think they underestimated how quickly Mike Conley would go away. I think they overestimated how impactful Nas Reed could be.
Mhm.
They over estimated, what growth you can get from Nikhil Alexander Walker, who, I mean, still, he's went 5 for 5 last night. What he does defensively is just irreplaceable on this team. Fantastic player, can do a lot for you on ball. But do those two guys even come close to the impact of unlocking the floor for Anthony Edwards? And I think the answer is no. And I think I in particular really underestimated how bad the spacing would be and how that would even make things even worse for Anthony Edwards. I mean, let's remember, like Anthony Edwards with Karl Anthony Towns on the floor still had defenses like really honing in on him. Like he
Mhm.
still had like a double the second that the ball's on the floor and he's driving towards the paint. Like that's how the playoffs went for him. If I mean, I expect them to make the playoffs this year, but if this roster is still together, how much worse does that get?
Yeah.
I mean, this dude's going to be getting triple teamed. I mean, like, and that's just how good he is. It's tough to imagine what they could have done different if you have a crystal ball and just think about like, all right, their books are going to be completely tied up. Yes, they won't be able to re-sign Nas and Nikhil Alexander Walker. Maybe they won't have as deep of a team, but at least your starting lineup will feature a marquee guy that really synergizes with Anthony Edwards. The idea of Anthony Edwards not having a guy like that for a few years now, that's kind of a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah,
That's a tough.
it's such a weird one because they're one of the few teams like in the NBA that haven't gone top heavy. They've tried they're looking at going like the other way and like not having
Yeah.
basically all their eggs in like three players. Like you look at like the Nuggets or you look at like the Lakers, they've kind of got like all their eggs are in their like top guys, and outside of that, they're looking to just play along the margins and hope that that's enough to keep them in the conversation. Timberwolves have tried to go the other way. Early signs does not work. That could still change. Maybe 2, 3 years from now, Dillingham is a legit guy in the NBA. Maybe they're able to pick up free agents. Maybe they're able to make smart deals to be able to really have this team as a contender when Anthony Edwards is getting into his prime. Because let's not forget, Anthony Edwards is still super young. So the only element is, can they sustain it enough that a guy like Anthony Edwards doesn't become disgruntled and wants to leave? That's something I'm looking at right
Well,
now. The
he's
way that this
disgruntled.
team is
He's still,
going.
I mean, yeah. I think there's a good pattern of players recently like express like being open with the media about how they're feeling without it being this, oh, he wants to leave thing, especially for small market teams. I'm glad that's not the narrative we're getting into already. I think that we've normalized a bit for the past year, but I think he's been pretty clear he's disgruntled. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is what the third time in the last like 40, 50 days where he's said like things are not working. Just like straight up like that, like we do not have offensive flow. Teams know what we're gonna do. Like he is not having a good time. And I mean you saw last night there's just there's nothing. There's nothing to work from there. And I think they're kind of stuck in the situation. This is what they knew might happen. They're just gonna have to deal with it. And no one's gonna take Randall. Randall's not he's not a guy that any team who's going to try and compete, like you can't think of many systems out there that make sense for him to go to. Not that he's a bad player, but I think he may have had a unique opportunity to be a kind of a depth guy for the Knicks, but man, I mean, the buyer's regret from Minnesota and how excited Knicks fans must be just thinking about like that's the trade you made. See how Dante's struggled to see that, everything's really become cramped in Minnesota. And then you look at the Knicks who have one of the best offenses in the league, like, and will continue to be so. And it's not just Brunson, it's going to be what everything can be done off the back of Cat as well. So exciting times in New York, tough times for Minnesota, especially where you're just at the cusp of, being in the finals. You're right there. You're knocking on the door, and I think that that door has closed this season and potentially in the near future.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the moves they try to make, how aggressive they are, how creative they can get to try and turn this ship around quick. Maybe they're willing to play the long game. It's going to be an interesting situation to watch for sure. Speaking of some trades, want to talk about Zach LaVine?
Yes, sir. Zach LaVine, like I could not imagine a trade this season that would have made sense that wouldn't involve the Bulls really just jettisoning picks and making the situation even worse. And I was kind of resolved to watch this team, root for them, but understand that nothing was going to change. I think two things have happened this season. One, I think Billy Donovan's got to get a lot of credit for the way that he has shaped this team, and he continually, throughout his career, shapes his teams around the players that he has. He's not stuck in his ways. He's a guy that's willing to make things work for the kind of team he has. He has a fast team. He's got Kobe White. He's got Ayo Dosunmu, two lightning quick guards. He's got Zach LaVine, who's a fantastic off-ball shooter. He's had his best, most efficient career and really done it with less. He's taking the least amount of shots since he first came to Chicago and is barely healthy to even play. But it's nearly a 50-40-90 guy. He's, for some reason, struggling from the free throw line, which is beyond me when he's having such a great year shooting off ball. But the way this team's redefined themselves, becoming a lightning fast team, one of the best teams in the fast break, one of the fastest teams in pace. I believe they're still top three. Compared to last year with DeMar DeRozan, they're one of the slower teams. Really got in slog, worked a lot of handoff with Vooch, him at the elbow. Now they're just like they're running. They're running open the court, and the best offense you can get is when it's not against a form defense. I bring this all up because how much of this improvement as a team is not just Billy Donovan, is not just the growth of these other guys. Great, I love that for the Bulls, but look to the leadership of Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is a guy I want to give him credit not just for what he's done on the floor, but I mean he's a man of his word. And he truly has been about this team, and he's always been that way. And he's just got a lot of haters across the league and in Chicago. But I mean, dude shows up to work. Dude shows up to play. He's sacrificed this season. He's not been this like selfish guy everyone thinks he is. Like he is a team first player, and he's played like it. And look at the win they had last night. He had a fantastic game. I mean, I think it's really funny that you get these rumors from the Nuggets, and then Zach has his best game of the year against the best team in the league, and the Bulls get a win against the Celtics. I mean, you can't write it up better than that. So the Nuggets are a little enamored with Zach, and then he goes out and he just has like this. I mean, I would maybe career game is going a little crazy with it, but the way he was just attacking Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, you love a guy like Zach who you know that he can just rise up and dunk over anyone, but he's also got that athleticism. Like he can fake you out, like a guy like Porzingis and score across the rim, and just use his athleticism to get past anybody. And then he's shooting over Derek White, just easy step backs. All his shots were difficult, but he made them look easy. There's not a lot of players like that, except for guys like Murray. It'd be really fun, man. Can you imagine that? Like those two guys getting in their bag when you have Jamal Murray who can score over anyone when he's hot, and you have Zach LaVine, a guy you saw it last night, proof of concept. He when you want to get a guy like him hot, like he can get hot, and you give Jokic two of those guys. I think the idea is there that the offense desperately needs to get better. And from what we talked about, I'm not sure you're as excited as I am as about it because I think if LaVine shows up in Denver this season, that doesn't put them over the top per se, but I think you're underestimating the impact that's going to have on their offense.
Yeah, I think the idea is definitely clear in Denver. They know they need more cover for Jokic. Jokic is playing too many minutes right now because he just has to. They have no choice. If they don't play him that many minutes, they're going to lose even more games than they're losing already. So that's the idea for Denver. They need to go out and get a piece they know they can rely on to run the offense. It can't just be Murray. They need to go out and get a guy that can legitimately run the offense when Jokic is on the bench, who can score when Jokic is there. He can play with Jokic as well. They need to find that balance, and they look like they're actually willing to move closer towards the tax by adding a guy like Zach LaVine, and that's very un-Nuggets to be willing to move closer to the tax. They're gonna trade but they're gonna have to trade MPJ, and my thinking around it is just it makes them so small. This trade would make them so small. I think they would have no choice, but they would have to push Peyton Watson, I think, into the starting lineup just to get a bit more size in there. I just think a move like this, I think you would see the positives. I think you would see enough positives that would make you think this was the right deal. They were smart to do this. But then I think in the biggest moments, it would ultimately hurt the team because I just think they're putting way too much pressure on Aaron Gordon as like a rebounder, as a defender. And it would also lead to Jokic having to do a bit more defensively. He would have to be take a few more risks as a help defender, which is something that he doesn't really like to do. And he would have to be willing to take some more fouls, which is something he doesn't really like to do. And I just don't see it ultimately being the right move. But I still would agree that I think it's a move that I could really see them making.
Yeah. Few things. One, since when did Michael Porter Jr. become this world stopper that we're like, ooh, where's their defense gonna go? If Michael Porter Jr. is
I
a
might be
below
hyping
average
up a little
steal.
bit. I purely
Yeah,
more of size
but
and
yeah,
rebounding.
but okay. So on the boards, I do think that that's tough. If you're gonna run Zach, Murray, Braun, and then Jokic and Aaron Gordon, that's that's a little bit small. I mean, two things on that. One, Braun is a very good rebounder for his size. Zach is decent for his size. He's not a bad rebounder. Obviously, not the rebounder that Mike Porter Jr. is. And then I think you kind of fill that in as well with guys like Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson is fantastic, fantastic rebounder as a wing. I mean, you can play him kind of in that Aaron Gordon kind of position. Um, and then Russell Westbrook, fantastic rebounder. They have a lot of good rebounders on this team. I don't think they're a team that's like uniquely going to just like fall apart on the boards because they lose Michael Porter Jr., who is a great rebounder. He is. There's not a lot of guys who are going to be as active on the boards as he is and be a like lights out shooter like he is from the perimeter. But what is our issue? Like, no, we're not like worried about the Nuggets this year because they can't rebound the ball. We're worried about the Nuggets this year because they can't score. Like when Jokic is off the floor, they can't score. When Murray is having a tough night, they can't score. And Jokic has to do all this by himself. And I think the idea that like Jokic is going to struggle defensively, Aaron Gordon is going to have to do a little bit more, sure. But Michael Porter Jr. is never a good help defender. Michael Porter Jr. is never a good on-ball defender. You know who's actually a very good, borderline elite on-ball defender? It's not like Zach LaVine is a very good on-ball defender. Yes, he's not great off-ball. You know who's also not great off-ball? Michael Porter Jr. Not a good off-ball defender.
That's fair.
So, size-wise, yeah, I agree with you that on the boards there are going to be some games where teams are going to outsize them. But who in the NBA is really outsizing people? Like not a lot of guys are running bigs, like two big lineups. So I think I'll push back on that a little bit in that aspect because especially the amount of good uh, guys on boards they have coming off the bench. But then I implore you to think about how much faster they'll play. I mean, MPJ is not, a slouch when it comes to the open court, but Zach LaVine is a elite open floor player. Like you better have a guy on this, a man on him when Jokic has the ball. Because I mean, how many touchdown passes are you going to see from him to LaVine? I mean, you're going to see a lot of that. How well is the offense going to run, and how much more sense it's going to make when Jokic is off the floor with Russell Westbrook when he gets to chuck the ball out to Zach LaVine, and Zach LaVine gets to cut off of his actions. Like I think there's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a huge bump in their offense efficiency when Jokic is off the floor if they're able to stagger like that.
Yeah, yeah, and don't get me wrong, I can see it. I'm just looking at it, I'm thinking, does that trade raise their ceiling?
Yes, I think it's
Yeah.
for all those reasons, and two, and also, I think we were huge on how much they screwed themselves because they didn't sign KCP. This dude forgot how to shoot a basketball this season. Like
Mhm.
I've brought it up a couple times now, but I'm still waiting, still waiting. Like he's been a big old nothing in Orlando, and nobody's talking about it. So
Yeah.
especially now, like they need him more than ever now, and he's just not showing up. But for them to get off him because they're like, oh, we're not so sure that's gonna be a good contract. I mean, it's not. It's really not. So now they have the opportunity to potentially, revamp their offense. How does it raise their ceiling? I think their ceiling has been incredibly impacted by the, the decline of Murray. It has. It's not been like really shaped at all by Michael Porter Jr. getting better. I mean, it's been a nice addition, and it really is an important facet of their offense. But he's not made any dynamic impact on how much better they can be. He's not been a ceiling raiser. He's been kind of a floor setter. I think Zach LaVine can be a ceiling raiser because he can be an on-ball scorer that they don't have off the bench, and he can be a guy that replaces a lot of what Murray does when Murray can't get it going. That's something that MPJ can't do.
Hmm. The cover for Murray, I think that's definitely a part of this trade idea that I like. The impact that he can have in that role is definitely an area that I like about a move like this. But yeah, the balls in Denver's court. I mean, the Bulls want to sell. The Nuggets apparently want to make the moves. The ball's in Denver's court. If they want to make the deal, I think the Bulls are going to be open to it. And yeah, I mean, it could definitely be, it would definitely be the kind of big time trade I think a lot of people don't believe we're going to get with everything to do with the salary cap and everything going on at the moment. Everyone's kind of down on how busy the deadline's going to be. So this would be cool to kind of just throw that back in people's faces to get a move like this. But let's finish out the pod with another negative, I guess. We'll close out talking about them Sacramento Kings. I know they're a team that
Oh,
you were
it's a
really excited about
positive,
this season,
positive, positive for the
and
Lakers.
they're just not there. Good win for the Lakers. But damn the Kings. Damn, damn, damn. It is tough, and you hyped them up big this year.
I
And I was
did,
I was kind of
I
trying to I
did.
was kind of with you when you were making the arguments, and we're just not seeing it. They're 13 and 15, but you know what's really staring? They are 6 and 11 in clutch games,
I
second
know.
last in the league.
DeRozan is now the 27th best clutch player in the league. Fox is still second, actually. Fox is still second.
Who's
A
first?
lot.
Jokic.
Um, oh, I get to. Oh, you want to know who's first? Um, and this is not a joke. You know who's first? You'll never guess it. You'll never guess it. It's Cody Martin.
What?
Cody
Cody
Martin.
Martin for clutch player of the year. I wonder what odds you would have got at that at the start of the year, huh?
Um, I, Anthony Edwards is third. Benning Mathurin is tied with Anthony Edwards and Devin Booker. A lot of this needs to suss out. Domantas Sabonis is actually also tied for third. But anyway, just thinking about the Kings and what has gone wrong, I am wrong. And I won't admit I'll be wrong for the rest of the season, but there is still adjustment to be made. And I won't even blame DeMar DeRozan as much as I'll blame a guy like Keegan Murray. I think Keegan Murray's cold shooting is a big reason.
Hmm.
Big reason. I think there is a lot of their offense stood on not only Fox had a career year of 3-point shooting last year, um, but Keegan Murray had some hot streaks, and a lot of their offense is relying on him being kind of the only quote unquote elite 3-point shooter out there. And we both know that's that's a tough sell. That's a tough sell for me. And we saw it last night. They could not get anything going inside when Anthony Davis's presence is there. And I think the Lakers defense, they had the best game that I've seen this year defensively. The way the Lakers were flying around, the way that they rotated off help defense, like they had such a crisp game. The way that they rebounded the ball in the fourth, I mean, they just had way more energy. They took that energy away from the Kings. As soon um, as Sabonis came off the floor, they just attacked. They were attacking, and I don't know what you say about the Kings, man. They needed this year to be like an offensive juggernaut. They needed to be like this historic offense. I think we were both excited. I was excited to see what they can make from DeRozan, but a lot of it's been your turn, my turn, which a little bit afraid of. We don't get a lot of movement in their offense. It's a lot of just Fox trying to create something with Sabonis, and we know that works, but there's been no added dynamic with DeRozan other than, sometimes it's a cheat code, but it hasn't happened enough where if no one else has it going, all right, DeMar DeRozan, here's the ball. And that's been nice, but it hasn't been something they've been able to fold into this strategy and make a consistent thing.
Yeah, I mean they're still the eighth ranked offense, so like it's still
They needed to
good.
be a
It's
one.
yeah, it's just not what it needed to be. We needed this to be elite. We needed this to be at the level it was 2 years ago. That was the move they made, was to go all in on offense, to make your offense the best. Maybe it'll turn around. Maybe they just need a little bit more time. But yeah, the bigger worry, I think it's more about the other guys. Keegan Murray, after looking like this was a great fit for him when at the start of the year, he's kind of fallen off. The likes of Herder and other guys like that are just offering nothing, and that leaves a hole there too. But like, to think about it, like AD and LeBron combined for 15 for 40 from the field last night, and the
Makes no
Lakers won
sense.
by 13.
Yeah.
We're not going to see that happen again this season. Like that, it just shows that not so much the problem with the Kings defense. I guess it's just more their inability to really be that ultimate offensive juggernaut. I think that showed up there, because they even made the Lakers defense look good.
Yeah.
Like last
I
night was
think
just
they
a bad
actually,
night for them.
yeah, and I think the Kings actually played AD pretty well. Like they kind of goaded him into taking some bad mid-range shots, and they contested them well. Sabonis had a great game on him. They know they're not gonna block his shot at the rim, but they had a lot of times, getting hands on the ball, guards coming in and digging in from the perimeter. Like they played a really good game on Anthony Davis, but I think Anthony Davis just, I mean, he's too strong on the boards. Especially on Sabonis. I mean, Sabonis is one of the best rebounders in the league, but AD, when he wants to get the ball, when he wants to be aggressive, um, just the way he impacted that side of the floor
This
on the
is wait,
boards.
wait,
And
wait. This is back-to-back wins by AD over Sabonis. What's going on?
but that's got to be a great feeling for the Lakers. I mean, I think Kings, it's going to take time for maybe the shooters just to get back in rhythm, because they're two wings who need to shoot the ball. Herter and Keegan Murray just are not. And I don't think they're going to have any. That was their floor, and the floor has fallen through. They're falling through the floor right now because the shots that they're creating are not going down. And they needed that so bad this season when they're going to include DeMar DeRozan. And I kind of expected life to be a little bit easier with him, for DeMar DeRozan to be there, because he's going to create a lot of offense for them, but it's not come along. I mean, if you talk about a team that needs a Zach LaVine like that, they wanted him before. I think that maybe they got the wrong wing from Chicago. But on the
Definitely.
Lakers, I wanna say that this can be a kind of a turnaround game. I think that this is exactly how they need to play. They've had a tough stretch of late, and to win this game off the back of not shooting, not scoring, but off of defense and off of rebounding.
Mhm.
I mean, that the way that they were very together on defense, and the way they were attacking the boards together, sharing the ball. There's no vibes of like palms in the air, wondering who's going around, whose assignment was that. Like everyone was on their money. And I think JJ Redick talked about it, and I was wondering how he would respond to it. And he said it himself. Like, I think this is our best game of the season. And I think it wasn't the sexiest game of the season, but it was, in terms of execution down the stretch, and a kind of a muddy game. It was a good time, really good
Yeah.
time.
And obviously following up a win over the Grizzlies. That's what you need. The Lakers. You need to see more from the Lakers. It's not only they beat the Grizzlies, then they actually beating the Kings on the road. The Lakers are always a team that are pretty kind of inconsistent on the road, especially. So this is definitely vibes. A nice little vibe check for the Lakers. Hopefully, this is something that they build on. But before we wrap up the podcast, it is Christmas time, so I got to ask you this question. You had one holiday wish, whether it be for your Bulls, whether it be for a certain player, a certain team. What would your holiday wish for the rest of the season be?
Ooh, what would my holiday wish? You know, I think I'll say that. I wish that Zach LaVine would go to the Denver Nuggets. That is my wish. And the reason why is what I mentioned. I think he is one of the most unappreciated players and hated on in this league when he's done nothing but been like truly a good teammate and like a very, very good player who I think is a championship level starter in this league, a star, one of the best scoring wings in this league. And I think he deserves a chance to compete. And for him, that would be the best Christmas present for him to play alongside a guy like Jokic, a true playmaker that he's never really had. He's never had a guy except for, Lonzo, who's a little bit different in that regard. But imagine Zach LaVine
And
in
he
a
only
Nuggets
had it for like a
jersey.
month too.
No, seriously. Glad to see Lonzo still there. But that would be my Christmas wish for Zach LaVine, who's had a great, maybe not a perfect career in Chicago, but for his own production, for him to have a chance to really compete alongside a guy like Jokic. As a big fan of LaVine, that would be a
Yeah.
massive Christmas present for both of us, I think.
Yeah, I like that. I thought you would go that way. I'm going to keep it real simple. Just Mitchell Robinson, come back healthy. Be
Give him
healthy.
new ankles.
Yeah,
Two new
just be
ankles.
healthy. That's all I ask. Just keep it simple. I just want Mitchell Robinson healthy. Just let's just see if that can really make a difference for our defense. That's all I ask, Mitch. Please just come back and don't be hurt. Just please do that for me. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's episode. Chris, thank you for joining me. Thank you all for sticking with us. Everybody, enjoy your holidays. It's Christmas time, best time of the year. We got in great games on Christmas Day, so enjoy the NBA Christmas Day games. Hopefully, the Knicks get a win over the Spurs, and we see a classic Warriors Lakers matchup. Hopefully, Steph and LeBron can turn back the clock there for a bit of excitement. But still, so long to go in this NBA season. But we can take a little break. Just say, let's just enjoy Christmas. We'll get back into the NBA flow a bit after that. But for today's episode, that's going to do it. Remember, we are everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.